Okay, I want to recommend, if you've not done so already, is to take a look at the brief Sage video in the introduction, right? That's on, at the current time, this is on page 6 of 309. I'm going to go to section, the first set, and this is about using Sage. And, certainly the way we're doing these problems over here is we're doing paper and pencil, and that's the way you're supposed to do them, paper and pencil. But you also may want to decide that you want to start to talk about and consider the bridge between paper and pencil and a machine doing the problem. Right? I think machines are kind of useful, but not at this level of the game. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't start thinking about the use of a machine to do a particular problem. And the reason for that, as problems start to develop over time, they're going to get so difficult that although paper and pencil is going to be a necessary first step, at some point you're going to need to use a machine to actually do a computation. So this is a gentle introduction into using a computer algebra system called Sage. And again, that's why we're recommending you watch an introductory video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through the document, and we're still in set 1. Hopefully it looks familiar to you. And I'm going to look at this over here, and it says, related Sage code. So you're going to see this throughout the document, that some of the sections will have this related Sage code in it. And what I recommend is you actually try. So what I'm going to recommend is kind of like a small piece of code over here. And this code here relates to a problem that's in the problem set. All right? We'll go through that in a moment, by the way. But I would sort of like read the code first. And the code, it's Sage code. So, reset, we're defining a variable, and we're solving an equation. So what I want to do is I want to go to the web, and I want to talk about using Co Calc. Right? Again, if you haven't watched the introductory video yet, please do so. So I'm at Co Calc, and what I want to do is I want to, just do something really simple, like 1 plus 1. And in Co Calc, when you hit the return button, nothing's going to happen. So what you have to do is hit the shift key and the return key at the same time. So I'm holding the shift key down now and the return key. Now you notice it just turned green there, and then it puts the answer down. Now what I want to do is also want to go, this is computer, this is on the internet. I want to point out what I'm doing over here. I'm using somebody else's computer to do computation. You notice at the top it's like this red thing says free trial, buy a license starting at $3 a month, and then apply it to this project. It says otherwise expect very bad performance, 10 times slower. You can't install packages here too. Don't worry about that. Cloned from GitHub, blah, 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 download data. You know what? Don't worry about that. What you should be worried about is if you do plan to use this at any professional level, you're going to have to subscribe to the service or download the software to your computer. Right, I'm going to do that next. I'm going to show you on my computer. I'm running Sage. And, certainly when I'm running Sage on my computer, I can do the same thing. And notice I just typed it in, and I put the 1 plus 1 in pretty simple computation, hit the return button, it spits back 2. Well, there's really no difference at this point. You don't see any speed differences. However, I want to point out my computer is so much faster than the web-based version, it's almost ridiculous. Right? You don't want to use this web-based version unless you're just using it casually. Professionally, you want to install the software. You don't have to subscribe to a service. Install the software, right, if you want to use it professionally. Now, granted, at this stage of the game, you're just simply playing around with it. So what I want to do is I want to go back to my document. I'm going to do it both ways, by the way. And I want to talk about the code. Right. So if I were typing in the code, I'm going to go back to my instance of Sage. I'm also going to do it on Co Calc too, by the way. Let me clear the screen. You can type in clear. Don't worry about these commands, by the way. Reset. What does that do? It gives me a clean sheet of paper, so to speak. It kind of erases anything that was in the computer system related to Sage at this point. And then I'm going to define a variable. And this is typical in computer science. We define variables as we're going to use those. Now, when Sage, X is already defined as a default variable. But listen, I still think it's a good idea to define your variables, including if you use an X. And then, I realize people get tired. And what they may decide to do is a copy-paste. All right, so I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste it in. And hit the return button. Now, when I do this over here, Sage actually is computing all 11 solutions to the problem. Right, this is one solution over here. You get the idea. 1, And I'm counting them up, by the way. This is the second one. This is the third one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You should try to admire those solutions, by the way. If you look at them, all but one are complex, right? They have an imaginary unit involved in it. There's only one that's real. It's right over here. That's the only one that's real. Another thing you should notice about this polynomial is that each complex solution occurs in conjugate pair, and you probably learned that in your pre-calculus course. But I want to scroll back to the original question, and I want to see what that original question was. And it wasn't what I just did, but it's related to it. I want to go back to that question. Is this question over here? It says, how many different real roots does the polynomial equation have? So this is where, thinking about something might be helpful. So what did I say over here? Long division may be helpful, right? Paper and pencil, got long division. And what I did was I used the rational root theorem, looking at it, and I saw immediately that -1 was a real solution immediately looking at it. And then what did I do? I did a long division. I got this over here. Now, some of these I can do it really quickly. We're not suggesting otherwise, but we're suggesting that's one technique, paper and pencil. All right. So I'm going to look at the second. When I did that division, by the way, I'm noticing the second polynomial is all even power, and there's no way that could ever be equal to 0 for any given real number. So the other 10 roots would have to be complex numbers. All right. So again, we did that problem saying it has one real solution, and that real solution would be -1. All right. How many? There's only one. Only one real solution to that problem over there. All right. I'm going to go back to Co Calc. Right. And I'm going to do the same thing. Let me see if clear works. All right. Clear. Remember, shift return. Clear is not defined here. It's defined in my terminal, though, by the way, not here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do reset like I did before. I'm going to, whoops, I have to do shift return, right? Notice it turns green now. I'm going to X as a variable. Hit return. And I'm going to type that other command in. You remember I copy pasted that. I hope you remember that. It's working on it. It's working on it. It's a little bit slower. It still came up with it. It's the same answer I got from my machine, by the way. And again, what am I noticing? That one real solution to it, -1, right over here. All right? So the claim is that it's fine to use this product online. However, professionally, you're going to get to a point where if you're going to use this product, you're going to need to install it on your machine. What I mean by that, have it running on your machine like I do. Now, certainly someone says, what is this thing over here? It's my terminal application. That's how I run Sage. There's many ways to run Sage on a computer, including things that look more like the web. But I like to use terminals. They're easier for me to do. All right, so that's a short introduction to using Sage. And let me go back to that. And again, interspersed in the document, you're going to see some Sage code as it relates to the material in that problem set. Now, granted, there's also going to be a little Sage video here. That's what you're watching now of that for the students that don't understand or need a walkthrough. You decide what you're going to learn and how much you're going to learn. You really do. That decision should be made on your own. I really appreciate you paying attention. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, I think at this point you probably know how to reach out to me. Thanks again for listening.